Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on our Will AI Recommend Your HOA Management Company webinar. I am John Leutermann, and just a few housekeeping rules before we get started here. So Brianna from the Big Rock team is on this call, and if you have any sort of technical issues, you can use the chat feature on the right-hand side of the screen. Also, we will be taking Q&A at the end, and there will be a recording of this presentation that will be sent out to anyone who signed up. On the right-hand side also, there's a handout section where you can download today's slide deck. And so feel free, if you have any questions, you can type them at any point throughout the presentation in the chat on the right-hand side, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, I'm John Leutermann, president of Big Rock Marketing. I work exclusively with community association and HOA management companies and helping them improve their online visibility and growth. And today's agenda is how AI is changing board research, what influences AI recommendations, the 7 essentials of AI visibility, practical steps to improve your positioning on AI tools, and then a live AI visibility audit. And then again, at the end will be the Q&A section. So the discovery journey has changed for board members. The old journey was typically a referral or a Google search. The board member would then visit several websites, read reviews, and then build a short list, and then reach out to each one of those companies to start the conversation. The new journey now is often a board member compressing hours of that kind of research into one answer or a short series of potential companies to reach out to. And so someone may start their journey by asking, which HOA management companies should we consider in our market? And then from there, the AI search tools give them a short list. And so one distinction I want to point out is traditional Google search and SEO. When somebody would do a search for HOA management companies near me or HOA management companies and their city, there would be a full page of Google results that would have at least 10 results on the page. And then there'd be additional pages, so there's hundreds of results at their fingertips. Now, when you ask that same question, depending on the search query and depending on the search tool, you may get 5 to 7 answers. And so it's becoming much more competitive. And so your opportunities to appear are much more limited than they were even a year or two ago. In addition, Google and AI search tools are heavily favoring reviews and reputation more than just plain the traditional Google search engines previously have. And so reviews and reputations are becoming even more important. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through the presentation. So how AI-powered research works. So there's generally 3 things that happen. So AI search tools are getting information from websites and searchable sources. So anything they find on your website, on competitors' websites, on directory sites, on any sort of sites that has information about your company and your competitors is one of the places that they're getting that information. And then they're comparing facts, reputation signals, and third-party references. So they're trying to verify information that's found on any single source and comparing it with the other sources that are available. And then they're taking that and coming up with an answer with suggested companies, citations, or next steps. And so when they give their results, they are basing it on some of the sites that they found, and they're giving you a very short-listed answer to who may be the best companies to work with in your area. So AI is not reading your sales proposal. It's evaluating digital evidence and websites before a board even contacts you. So you may have the best sales team in the world, but that doesn't matter if you're not showing up in AI search, because those companies will either never find you, or they'll find you and they won't be calling you because you weren't a recommended option. So now I'm going to share my screen and just do a couple of quick searches to show you sort of what the results look like specifically on ChatGPT. So I will do that now. So I live in Milwaukee, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT a question. see what kind of results it gives us. So it looks like it gave us 6 results. And what's interesting to note here as I take a look at this, these results here, they have a little bit of a, so they're giving the company name and they're naming like what they specialize in. So what would they be best for, the type of community that you live in. And then there's a few notes. But one thing that caught my eye here is that multiple times they're citing the Better Business Bureau. And so as I talk with the management companies that I work with, I stress to them the importance of the Better Business Bureau. It's a even more important trust symbol, trust site than it ever has been before. And so I'm just going to click on this link here. And so, for example, Century Management. So they are, looks like they are a BBB accredited business, and I certainly think that does help when they're trying to evaluate companies. The fact that you're accredited is important. Your letter grade is also important. I know that they are looking at complaints and reviews, and so many of the management companies that I talk to don't even realize that they can ask for reviews in the BBB. But this site is becoming more and more important because this AI search tools are using it to look at recommendations for management companies. So I would highly recommend asking your homeowners, your board members, your vendors to leave you a review on the Better Business Bureau website. Let's take a little bit more of a look at this result here. And so they are giving some very simple information about each company. And so I'm just going to take a look here. And so they're kind of like summarizing here, like who would be the best overall, best large association, best luxury or high rise, best established local company. And one thing that's important to do is to click on this sources button, because they will tell you where they got their information from. And so it looks like Better Business Bureau, which we already saw, Clutch, which is a review site, Seolium, I've never heard of that one, but it looks like it's a directory site. Expertise.com is a popular directory site. Global Newswire, which this is kind of an interesting one here. This looks to be a press release that they probably scheduled themselves a few years ago. So I know we've been working with some of our customers to help them with press releases, and you can tell that they are getting picked up by the AI search tools. Some more BBB results, and then HOAmanagement.com, which is an industry directory site. And so I would suggest doing a few of these types of searches in your area to see what comes up and to see what sources are listed, and then definitely try to get your company listed in those sources if possible. So I will go back to the PowerPoint now. So why are some companies mentioned and others aren't? The companies that are easier to recommend when they have provided clear information both on their website and off of their website about who they are and where they operate. So what services do you provide, and which types of communities do you serve, and what like what is your service area, what cities do you operate in. And so that is super important to have that on your website. What do your customers consistently say about you? So that's reviews and reputation. Whether their expertise is demonstrated publicly, that would also be reviews and like BBB listings. Whether trusted third-party sites mention them or validate them. So some of the review sites probably count as this as well. Are they listed on directory sites? Are people talking about them and other sites? And whether your website can be crawled, understood, and cited. So this is your own website. So you got to make sure that those things are in order for the AI search tools to be able to recommend you. And so AI visibility is earned through a connected digital footprint, not just one tactic. So there's no quick wins here. Really, AI is crawling the entire internet to find information about your business and make recommendations about who to list on their results. So AI starts with being discoverable. Your strongest content cannot influence an answer if search systems cannot access or understand it. So these are some of the technical SEO type things, making sure that your pages are indexable by Google. And that would be done by connecting your website to Google Search Console and verifying that pages are indexed, making sure that your navigation is clear and that your internal links are clear so that when someone comes to your site, they can easily navigate through your site. And I would encourage you to also test this on mobile devices, because Google is crawling your site on a mobile bot. So they are doing it as though somebody is searching through a phone. And so it's super important that you can find all of your content, that it's linked to well on a mobile device. You want to make sure that your services and locations have dedicated pages, that company facts appear and are in readable page content. So if you have something in an image, Google can't easily see that. So make sure that everything is in text form. Again, making sure your mobile performance is strong, and that just by chance you're not accidentally blocking search or AI crawlers. So there's some settings that determine whether or not your site is indexed. The vast majority of sites are, but every once in a while I'll run upon a site that was being blocked during the time that the site was being built, but when they launched the site, they forgot to turn that setting off, and so that it could definitely impact your visibility. So technical visibility creates the foundation, and credibility determines what happens next. So AI builds confidence from consistent signals. So just having one piece of information somewhere most likely isn't enough unless your competitors also only have limited information. So AI systems are comparing the information that they find across your digital presence. So things like, your website name, your address, phone number, URL, services, leadership, is that consistent from site to site? Your Google business profiles, how do your categories, locations, photos, and are you making regular updates? Your review volume, recency, the themes of what's being said about you in your review, and how the company responds are all consistent signals. Educational content on your website that answers board member questions builds a consistent signal. And then consistency between what you claim and what others confirm. So if you're saying one thing, but the reviews are all saying something different, then that could be, inconsistent, and you may not show up for those kinds of searches if you have information on your website that isn't being confirmed by the reviews that people are writing about your business. So conflicting or thin information creates uncertainty. Clear patterns create confidence. So now I'm going to jump into the 7 essentials of AI visibility. So here are the 7 connected components for a strong digital presence. So website experience. When somebody visits your website, do they see clear positioning and easy next steps, like calls to action? The technical discoverability. Is your site crawlable, indexable, and is the information structured on there? Reviews and reputation. Do you have recent reviews and credible customer evidence? Your Google business profile, is it accurate? And does it have an active local presence? Helpful content. Do you provide answers to HOA board members' direct questions? Entity consistency. Is the same information found about your company across the internet? And then your online authority. Do you have trusted mentions, links, citations, and affiliations across other websites? And these components reinforce one another. So any weakness in one of those 7 areas can impact the whole system. So now I'm going to dive into each one of these individually. So website and technical discoverability. Your website should make it easy for both boards and search tools to find and understand your information. So services, locations, community type, and differentiators are important. And so on a website, having a page for each type of community that you serve. So for example, condos, townhouses, single family homes, gated communities, high rises, lifestyle communities, 55 plus, having a page for each type of community is important. Having a page for each of your major cities that you serve. So these are service area pages. And then having information about your leadership experience, credentials, and then also having contact information. So in the vast majority of websites that we work on, when we look at their monthly Google Analytics, their About Us or Why Choose Us page is almost always in the top 5. So I know a lot of people probably overlook that type of a page, but that page is actually one of the most important pages on the website. People really want to know who they're doing business with, and they will evaluate your About Us page and your company history and make a decision about you before they ever call you. So that's super important to have that page well built out. And then making sure that your website is fast, mobile friendly, and with clear calls to action, that there's a logical navigation with internal links, page titles, and headings, the structured business and organization information where appropriate. So that's schema markup. And again, no accidental blocks that are preventing pages from being crawled or indexed. The goal is to be easy to find, interpret, verify, and easy to contact. So essential number 3 is reviews create reputation evidence. And so reviews help prospective clients in the broader web understand service patterns. You want to focus on the quantity of reviews, the quality of reviews, the recency of reviews, the relevance of reviews, your responses, and the distribution of where reviews are found. So you want to make sure that you're getting enough reviews on a consistent basis. I know some businesses, they make it the kind of the topic of the month where, hey, we're going to get reviews this month, and they'll get 20 in a month and then none for the next 6 months. Well, Google's probably going to discredit those reviews because that's not normal behavior. You want to make sure that your reviews are coming in on a consistent basis. And then also the quality. So especially this industry, you guys get beat up for rules that you're forced to, that you have to enforce, but that you didn't actually make. And so it's really not fair how homeowners most of the time are leaving negative reviews about your business. So we know that the negative reviews are going to come in, but we need to kind of be proactive in helping the positive reviews go in. And that is best done by having an internal system so that when a homeowner, a vendor, or a board member has a positive experience, that is the time that you ask them, like, hey, would you mind sharing that experience with Google or with BBB or with Yelp? That helps bring in those quality reviews. And then having recent reviews is important. So if you have 100 reviews, but they're all from 5 years ago, that isn't going to help you nearly as much as if you're getting a few reviews each month. Relevance. So if they're talking about their experience with the services that you provide, that's those keywords in those reviews are going to be super helpful. And then also you should definitely respond to both positive and negative reviews. For the positive reviews, you can give them a thank you and just kind of reiterate what they said. For the negative ones, these ones are really, one thing to keep in mind is that when responding to a negative review for an HOA management company, you're not writing the response to the person who left the negative review. You're writing it for the next person who is evaluating how you handle a difficult situation. And so every management company has to handle a very difficult situation. Every management company has negative reviews. That's just a fact of the industry and for most businesses in the world. But how you respond to it, in responding in a professional, polite manner, is going to be evaluated by the next person who's considering working with your company. And then distribution. So Google is the most important site to get reviews on, but I would also recommend making sure that you have reviews on the BBB as well as Yelp. Also, Reddit is important. So Reddit doesn't have traditional reviews per se. They're forums where people can leave messages about your company. And then any other industry websites that might have a profile for your business that allows reviews, it's important to have reviews on there as well. And my advice to companies in this industry is not to try to chase perfection because it really isn't possible, but to build a credible current pattern of trust. Next, I'm going to talk about your Google business profile. And the reason why this is important is that a management company with a well-optimized Google business profile can generate about 30% of their board member leads through their Google business profile. So this matters. You know, your website is of course most important, but Google business profile is right behind there. So Google in their documentation says that your local visibility is influenced by relevance, distance, and prominence, and your profile helps establish all three. So you want to make sure that you're using the correct primary and secondary categories. And we do a ton of industry research on this, and I would say that 9 out of 10 management companies are missing opportunities in their categories. Most of them use property management, which is the closest one that we can use for the HOA management industry, but there's a ton of other categories that also should be used. We want to make sure that the locations are accurate. If you're using service areas, that those are accurate. Your hours, your phone number, and your website, all that information is accurate. You want to make sure that you're using the services section, which I would say that almost all the management company profiles that I look at are missing out on services. They might have a few, but they don't really focus on that. And one thing to keep in mind is that Google is constantly updating your services and not telling you. So as we've done some audits for management companies, we'll find some really silly services in there. Like if you have a job on your website that you're hiring for, and you say that you're going to do a background check, it might list that you guys do background checks. And so if somebody is looking for a company to do background checks, you don't want your business appearing for that. Although that's part of what you may do, it's not one of your primary services, so you definitely want to take that out of there. And I would check those on about a monthly basis, because Google does keep adding more and more categories, services that aren't appropriate for your business. And then also for all the ones that you do end up keeping, you want to make sure to have a business description for each one of those. Make sure that your photos are current, and it's good to have regularly updated photos. And so those can be of your building, of your employees, of your communities, of community events, anything like that. It's nice to add some photos consistently over time. And then you want to make sure that you have ongoing reviews generated. Again, internally is the best way to do it from your team. You want to have consistent information across your website and directories. A complete profile improves local confidence, even when the final answer appears in an AI-powered experience. So essential number 5 is helpful content demonstrates expertise. And so this is going to be content primarily on your website. Create content around the questions that board members are actually asking. So for example, and just to clarify, so you want to make sure that you have the primary pages, which would be your a page for each type of community that you manage, a page for each major city that you do business in. But then you also want to have either a blog or a resource or a guide section where you dive into some of these other ones. And another note on this is that we find that a lot of management companies create their own blogs, and they're very generic in nature. So they may write on a topic that 100 or 200 other management companies have written on. What's important is to keep it specific to your area, because then you're competing with far fewer people. So like, for example, some of the topics that you can write on is how to evaluate or switch management companies, what a management transition should include. You know, I know a lot of board members have questions about the transition. Reserve studies, collections, budgets, insurance, and governance. Those are all hot topics for board members. The differences between HOA, condo, high-rise, and developer services, local laws, market conditions, and community challenges. And you want to make sure that the answers are clearly written by identifiable, experienced professionals. You can use AI to help you with this, but you definitely want to have a human edit it and put their own spin on things. You want to make sure that you're injecting your company knowledge into the articles so that shows through in the content. And my last suggestion is to avoid publishing generic content just to target keywords. So you want it to be useful, original, people first answers. Those are going to be far more credible, and they are more likely to earn citations. So essentials 6 and 7 are consistency and online authority. So again, and I've probably mentioned this a couple times in here, but it is super important. You want to make sure that your company information, your name, your location, your phone, leadership, service descriptions are the same everywhere. And you want to make sure to try to clean up duplicate or outdated listings as much as possible. I know some of those sites are very difficult to get your information corrected, but I'd say it's worth the effort. Make specialties or geographic coverage explicit. So again, what type of communities do you manage and where do you do it? Making sure that information is consistent across the internet. Online authority, you want to make sure to earn mentions from your CAI chapter, any sort of local organizations, media partners, and community resources. So any existing relationships, try to use those to get links back to your site, to have profiles on their site. So like, for example, if you're if you're a member of the CAI, you can have an online profile with your local chapter, and that will be something that AI search tools can see and would vouch for your information. Make sure to publish expert commentary, webinars, guides, and case examples, and then build links and citations through real relationships. So an example of that would be if you have some vendors that you work with and they have partner pages on their website, ask them to list you on their partner pages and put a link back to your website. That will help with a backlink back to your website. So AI is more confident when your own claims are supported by independent sources. So the more places that you can put your information, the better. So pulling it all together, I'm going to do a couple of searches here. I'm going to share my screen again and just talk about what we see when we do searches for management companies. So these are just things as you're doing these types of searches. I'm just going to kind of go through this list quick. Does the company appear for priority markets and services? Are the facts accurate and consistent? Which websites or profiles are cited? What review themes reappear? Is the company positioned as a specialist or a generic option? What questions does the website answer well? What evidence is missing? Would an HOA board feel confident in taking the next steps? So I will share my screen now. So I am going to ask the same question here of Google. And so looks like Google has given us some different answers than ChatGPT did, although there are some overlaps as well. I'm going to pop into AI mode, as this is kind of the direction that Google is going with their search results. And so as we look here, we can see, and they have sort of blended their information with traditional results as well as the maps section. So that's where we're getting the addresses and the photos from. And then we can look here and see where they're getting their sources from. And it looks like they're getting them from themselves in this case. But let's take a look here. So let's see here. I'm going to ask them, why are you picking these companies? And see what they reveal. And so it explains why they've recommended these companies. And I'm going to pop back over to ChatGPT here, and I'm going to ask some questions here. I'm going to ask ChatGPT, and I would encourage you to do this about your own business. I'm going to ask ChatGPT what they know about this particular management company in Milwaukee. So this kind of reveals what information ChatGPT has about your business. And it can tell that you're a member of the CAI, that you're a AAMC company, that you're staffed by multiple PCAMs. It mentions that it's part of Associa. It shows the local leadership. So it's getting this information from various websites. So the local office has a 4.3 out of 5 stars with more than 270 reviews. It's mentioning BBB. So all the things that we've been talking about in this presentation are important when they're giving their sources. So we'll take a look at where they got all this information from. Again, from the company website, from CAI Wisconsin chapter, from the BBB, from LinkedIn, from AllBiz, which looks to be a directory site, and then HOAmanagementcompanies.net, which is also an industry directory site. So I'm going to ask another question just to kind of uncover a few more pieces of information. What are the pros and cons of working with this company? And I would encourage you to ask this question of your company so that you can try to, if there's anything you can do to overcome the cons, that would be helpful. So it's talking about how many years they're in business as a pro, the industry certifications, the local management, and some of the things that the managers work on, the benefits for employees, and then some of the cons are that they have a high workload, that there's difficult customers. It almost seems like they almost looked at the question that I asked. Okay, so I can see why they answered it this way. What are the pros and cons of working with this company? They took it as I wanted to be an employee of this company. So let me rephrase it. What are the pros and cons of hiring them to manage my community? And it gives a nice list here of some of the pros and cons. So we may cost more than smaller local firms. Larger portfolio may mean your manager has many communities. Experience can vary depending on your assigned manager. So I'm assuming that they're getting this information from reviews. Some homeowners report slower responses during busy periods. That's probably from reviews as well. Corporate policies. Yeah, so that's interesting. But I would encourage you to ask these kinds of questions about your business. And then it gave overall assessment, so that this company was overall 9.2 out of 10, which is great. So interesting what you might learn. I will go back to the deck now. So here's a 90-day AI visibility plan. So days 1 through 30 are fixing the foundation. So making sure that your website can be indexed, making sure the messaging, the pages are correct on your website, making sure your Google business profile is fully optimized and that you have your listings and reviews up to date, correcting any sort of inconsistent information that you find on the internet, and removing any sort of technical barriers to having your information appear. Days 31 through 60 are building more trust signals. So that would be launching an internal review process and improving your responses to those reviews. Strengthening your service, location, leadership, and specialty pages on your website. And then days 61 through 90 are spent building more authority, publishing board-focused questions and answers, and demonstrating your local expertise, pursuing credible mentions, partnerships, and citations, and then retesting your AI prompts and tracking visibility, accuracy, sources, and leads throughout the internet. That is all for today. If anyone is interested in getting a free AI visibility assessment with me one-on-one, you can go to bigrock.online/webinar. And there is my contact information if you have any questions. I love helping management companies out and answering their marketing questions. So feel free to reach out at any time. We will now head into the Q&A portion of the presentation. So please type your questions into the chat bar on the right. Okay, Brianna, do we have any questions?
Yes, we have a few submitted questions. So the first one is, how often do AI recommendations change?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so traditionally with Google search, the results were somewhat static. They didn't change very often. They were pretty much, if you search today and you search tomorrow, they're pretty much going to be the same. They didn't change real often. But with AI search, they can change daily, weekly, monthly. It changes in real time. So every time someone does a search, the AI search tools are regenerating those answers. And so the other thing that's interesting is that if two people were sitting side by side doing the exact same search, they may get different results. And unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. But just following, the 7 steps and making sure that you're doing everything in your power to show up in those results as often as possible. Any other questions?
Yes. The next question is, can I pay to be included in AI recommendations?
Ooh, good question. Um, so not directly in the recommendations, but ChatGPT is now testing ads within their search results. So that may be something that you want to take a look at testing. And Google currently doesn't, in their AI mode, they currently don't have advertising, but I'm sure that they will in the not too distant future. They do have results in their regular search, which is what the majority of people are still using. So although they won't like list you as a recommendation, you can appear on the page where those recommendations are by doing ads with them. Any other questions?
The last question that we have is, does having good SEO automatically mean AI will recommend my company?
Well, that's a great question. So there's about a 70% overlap between SEO and AI optimization. And so SEO, having good SEO is the foundation, but having that alone doesn't necessarily mean that you will appear in the AI search results. The last 30% is a lot of the reviews and reputation stuff that we were talking about today. So it's super important that you have everything up to date from an SEO standpoint on your website, but then also that you have your reviews and reputations looking as strong as possible. And I've been asked a lot, like, well, how many reviews do we need? What kind of a rating do we need? Well, that is going to be dependent on your market. And so taking a look at your competitors, if you can get yourself ahead of your competitors in a review count and in star rating, that puts you in the best position possible. But having a solid SEO foundation is super important. But then also a lot of these other items that we talked about are important as well for AI optimization. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today, and appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.